There's a Gewalt story, talking about marriages, engagements. I think I shared with you. In the time of the Remuh, you know, in those days, they didn't have an orphanage and they didn't have social workers. So, in those days, you know, the rabbi of the city was mamash the father of all the children, never had no parents. So the Remuh had in his house an orphan, let's call her Chanara for the name's sake. And obviously was a special girl, so he got her engaged to another orphan boy. But this orphan boy, stupidly said, enough had an uncle who was mama's disgusting creep. So the uncle never took care of this little boy, but now it comes to, you know, nothing and money, suddenly he was on top. So he says he will not let his nephew marry this orphan girl unless, in those days was a lot of money, 1,000 gold ruble, whatever it's called, you know, it was a lot of money. The Holy Rema will get it together. And, you know, in Europe in those years, 17th, 16th century, all those weddings would be on Friday afternoon before Shabbos. What? They would get married Friday afternoon. Some big kind of still would mamash get married Friday afternoon. Okay, so remember in Krakow, outside the Remuh's shul there, this big like a square courtyard. So the Remuh says, I have it together, you know. Let's assume Shabbos is 6, 4 o'clock is the wedding. And the uncle says, I insist cash. He says, I don't have cash on me, you know. Okay, wait. No, but the Remuh runs around to get some cash. All he has cash is 800, 200 missing. He says, I'll give it to you after Shabbos, trust me, you know. I'm the chief rabbi of Krakow, I'm not going to steal from you. He says, no, it has to be now, before the wedding. And you know, who has cash on him before Shabbos, right? And the meeting gets later, the Remuh can mamash imagine the Holy Rema mamash running around, never for this girl to get married. And till, let's say Lichtmenschen was 6, right? So you still have time from Lichtmenschen, a few minutes, right? Until he had the 200 gold kronen, whatever was already 10 after 6. So the uncle was saying, okay, now Bashem, we can get married, it's too late. Remuh knew one thing, you know, that if they don't get married right now, the wedding will never happen. Because obviously he wants to destroy the wedding, that thief. So the Remuh made the wedding. It was already like mamash Ben Shmoshes made a Gewalt wedding. You know? It's a beautiful wedding. And you see, it's not min ha-Torah that you're not permitted to get married on Shabbos. It's min ha-Rabbanan, it's a holy thing. So there were so many letters written back and forth between all the great rabbis at that time, because everybody was criticizing him. How can you make a wedding? It's already Shabbos. No, Remuh, he was strong enough on his own feet, you know. But it's very special.
I just wouldn't want to be that uncle.
What?
I wouldn't want to be that uncle when he goes to
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you an unbelievable story from your humble brother, me. 2 kids. I gave a class in Chicago, and a man and a woman come up to me, and they said that we're getting married, and could you please be our rabbi? And you know, 2 kinds of people ask me to marry them. Or moms, they want to give out wedding, or some moms, they have no money. And so I said to them, where's the wedding going to be? Never. They said that in a kosher restaurant, they reserved one table, Nebuch, on a Saturday night, and Nebuch, so heartbreaking. A Saturday night, like, you know, those big Jewish delicatessens where people eat and drink, so much noise, and then all they had one table. Obviously, they have no money, right? So I make it my business. I thought the only thing they have to do, a big favor, they have to make the wedding after Shabbos late. They don't care. So it was a Shabbos, and you know, in Chicago it's 1 hour later. I got there 10 o'clock, and here's where the story begins. The color, obviously, the uncle didn't make a big wedding for her. He just heard that she's getting married. He came to the wedding. And he brought his own rabbi. You know, I paid my own trip to Chicago just because I wanted to be with them. He brings his own rabbi who's more frum. He says he will not let his niece getting married by somebody who's not 100% religious. Wait. No, but you know, the girl, I could see she's white like a sheet, you know. But this is not it. I mean, it was really more disgusting than anything. And he wants to do the whole thing. I said, okay, you know, I said, listen, don't worry about it, no hard feelings. I'm just glad to be here. And it comes to the ksuba. He says he will not, you know, the marriage contract, you buy it in the store for $1.50. He says he wants $25 cash right now for the ksuba. $25 cash for the ksuba. And never the bride and the groom were mamash dying because they had no money and then they're poor, right? And the uncle is standing there grinning from one ear to the other. I mean, I've never seen anything so disgusting. I walk up to the chosin and I put $25 in his hand. And I said to him, you know, I'm so ashamed that this is important. Can you imagine this boy and this girl, they were not super frum. The way they walk away and thinking of Orthodox Jews. Under the chuppah, $25. What? Right. And not under the chuppah, you know. Disgusting. One of the, I was so ashamed. I'll not forget about Rabbi. A human being, you see, those kids are poor. Under the chuppah, you squeeze money out of them. Anyway, the thing like this, and this uncle, he was so proud that he got a frum rabbi to do it, right? Anyway, I don't remember, maybe I said something, maybe he gave me permission to say a few words, I don't. He didn't let me do anything. Then is a little feast, you know what it was? They had a turkey sandwich for everybody who came to the chuppah. There were 12 people, how much is that? 12 turkey sandwiches. Okay, let's say it cost them $50, right? And I have my guitar and I'm trying to sing, and who's talking loud and don't let me sing? The rabbi and the uncle. Finally, I just didn't have strength anymore, you know, I knocked them off like crazy. So good, I knocked them off, so what? Nothing. They disturbed the chuppah. Anyway, this was one of my most beautiful nights. I have a couple in Chicago. Yeah. He's a chazan. His name is Chazan Kupler. He is in somewhere in Chicago. I call him out. I said, listen, brother, Mamish, you want to do the biggest mitzvah you ever did in your whole life? Mamish, I want you to get all our friends, Mamish, because they knew I'm there for the chuppah, you know, and they asked me if I want to do a verbringen after. I said, I'll call you out from the chuppah, but they were all on hold. I said, get all the people, wherever you can, and I will make sure that the chosin will drive me after the thing to my hotel. I will tell them just have to pass by there to pick something up, and I want everybody to stand outside with candles. You cannot imagine what a mitzvah this was. What a verbringen we had, you know. Awesome, awesome. Mamish gewalt. I said to this couple, you know, who organized it, I said, this is just for this alone, you'll be by your grandchildren's weddings, you know. Why did we come to it? Oh.
Because Moshe asked about getting married. When is there any time that you can't get married?
Oh, but the Remuh, aha. The Heilige Remuh, fighting the bad uncle. Yeah. Do you know another awesome story of the Remuh? This is, I don't know, did you go with me in the middle of the marketplace? I think we passed by there. There's like a little, in the marketplace in Krakow.
Mm-hmm.
There's, what?
No,
There's like a little space, and you cannot go through it. It has a gate around it. Like you can't pass over. There was a very rich Jew in Krakow, and he was like, you know, we had enough trouble from the government. We don't need one Jew making trouble with another. He was a very rough person who was very rich, and he had a big factory, and he was treating the people who worked for him, you know, like, not a match. Had a son. So one day he comes to the Remuh and he says, my son, and he was a Kohen also, my son is marrying a divorced woman, and I want you to perform the wedding. The Remuh says, I don't, because, you know, a Kohen is not permitted to marry a divorced woman, so I cannot come to the wedding. So he was very close to the king. He gets a letter from the king, an order from the king for the Remuh to perform the wedding. And obviously he was very rich, so he invited the king to the wedding also. Okay, the king is coming, and all the dignitaries, and the police is coming to the Remuh to arrest, by force. He has to come to perform the wedding. The king is there. The king says it's an order to perform the wedding. So the Remuh Mamish was standing there, and he was praying, let me show them that God is the king, he's not the king. He cannot give me orders. It's unbelievable. You know what happened? The earth opened up and swallowed the chusn, the kala, and the father of the chusn, the thief. Mamish like Korach. Swallowed it up and it closed up. And for the Kohanim not to step over it, they put the gate.
Wow.
This is awesome. I mean, you know, the Remuh had the Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama, you know, Moshe. What? Yeah.
How do you spell his name?
Reb Moshe Ben Isserles. His father's name was Isserles. But he would call himself Moshe Isserles. His father, the Remuh's father, was also very wealthy, very wealthy. And his son became the chief rabbi of Krakow when he was 18 years old. And he was very, very proud, his son. When his son was 18, he was right? He was the pillar of all of Israel. Unbelievable. I don't know if you know the story, which is unbelievable. So when they made when the rabbi takes over the rabbinate, in those days, to be honest a little bit, you have to invite the bishop, because the rabbi is an official thing, and the mayor of the city, and okay, so it was, even in those days they wanted to make peace between religions, so it was that the Remuh is coming in a carriage, and half the way he meets the bishop, and they both get off from their wagon and they shake hands and they talk to each other. The Remuh was very, very tiny, and when he was 18 he looked like he's 14. So the bishop did not believe that this is the rabbi, right? So he thought they want to make fun of him. So he got very, very angry, and he says, I'm going to wipe out all the Jews for the chutzpah of making fun of him. So they told him, we're not making fun of you. This is our new rabbi. He, so they said, so he said, okay, I'll invite all the intellectuals, the great philosophers and scientists from Krakow, and they will ask him questions. And if you can answer all the questions, I forgive you. And if not, I'll still stick to it. Or I'll kill all the Jews and drive them out from Krakow. The bishop in those days said. So it goes without saying, I mean, they couldn't believe what this boy knows, There was not a science, medicine, astronomy, astrology, religion. There was not any science in the world which he was not the greatest in. Nevertheless, the bishop was still angry at him. Some people can't forgive this. Maybe he was jealous. His boy is 18 and is the greatest, and what does the bishop know, right? So the Remuh opened the yeshiva, like Heilige Tzvi, opened a Gewalt yeshiva. So the bishop somehow managed that he told the mayor of the city that what they are teaching there is bad stuff. He was teaching Chosh Mishpat, Mamish lost. The Remuh was writing Chosh Mishpat, so he was learning with Talmidim. So they had to leave the city. So he said they can only teach outside the city. So what did they do? All the holy hippies who wanted to learn with the Remuh, they went outside the city and they were sitting on the grass. What should they do, right? And one day a nobleman passed by, a non-Jewish nobleman, but a high neshama. He sees all those kids sitting there on the lawn. He got off his horse, tied it. He said also, sit down, he listened. The laws, Jewish laws between man and man, like when it comes to money matters. But this is Gewalt. These are mamish good laws, So he introduced himself to the Remuh, and he says, what's going on? Why don't you have a school somewhere else? He says, because the mayor of Krakow threw me out because of the bishop, and we have no space to go. So the nobleman gave the Remuh his palace. Unbelievable. And for many, many years, the Remuh's yeshiva was in that palace. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Was the Remuh higher level than the Maral?
What?
Was the Remuh so higher level than the Maral?
How to know? On one hand, yes, because Mamash all of Israel is paskening like him. You have to be like Moshe Shema of all of Israel. But he has a big mission. Yeah, gotta go.
You going to Boston?
Have a good day, Moshe.
When will I see it?